Wake up, wake up. It is Friday, April 19th. Larry, for the first time in a long time, we get to say that we are less than a week away now from the start of the NFL draft. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone. Like and subscribe. How are you, pal?
Doing great. Did a late night stream last night with Ethan Sherwood Strauss. I have just a packed day of packed days today. I'm starting today with you at 8:45. I've got Chase Sr., who's, now America's most hated man for doing nothing at all, at 10:45.
Wait, I'm sorry. Why is Chase Sr., who I really, other than the name that you sometimes, I don't know who he is. What does he do?
Oh, he's a Niner content creator for Chat Sports, and he basically just reprinted a story that came out of Pittsburgh saying that the Steelers, there's a Steelers source who believes that Brandon Aiyuk will be a Steeler, and then Brandon Ayuk's agent, instead of pushing back on the actual story, pushed back on Chase Sr.'s coverage of said story. We'll get into it later today.
Okay.
And then Matt Barrows is going to join me this afternoon to talk about his NFL draft crush. I'm going to be on later tonight at 6:00 with the great Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers. Great guy. And then even later tonight after that, Baller is going to have me on his channel. We're going to talk a little draft. So it's going to be an action-packed day. And I got Kev coming back from Cal Poly today with his girlfriend, and they're going to go to the Giants Diamondbacks game tonight. So we got a lot going on.
Doesn't Baller have a newborn at home?
He does. So it's been very difficult for him to schedule any time at all.
Give him my best when you see him, man. Absolutely. That's a good guy right there. Tell him congratulations. So, yeah, busy day for you. I've got, we're doing this right now. I've got the 11 o'clock show that I'm going to be doing a little bit later on this morning. And then, Larry, I got to gather my stuff and get ready. I'm going back to Vegas. Jillian and I are getting out for our first kid-free weekend in 4.5 very rewarding, very special, but very long years. And so we're really looking forward to getting away. So while you're working really hard, I am going to be setting the designs of having a great time in Vegas this weekend. So let's make the most.
Who's the sitter? I mean, you got a sitter, huh? You got a sitter for 4.
Well, we have Jillian's parents are staying the weekend in our house. So
good. You saved yourself about $1,000.
Oh my God. We couldn't have afforded to get away if we had to permanently.
What's the going rate for a sitter?
Depends on what you're looking at.
What are you paying? What do you have to pay for a sitter?
Depends on what you're. By the way, you can't make fun of KNBR doing segments about milk if the Friday before draft you're asking me what I pay a babysitter.
Well, this is. I'm just kind of wondering. I've been out of the game for a while, so
Larry,
my daughter sometimes babysits, and she gets an absurd amount of money sometimes.
It's a game you don't want to be in. The best shot we've got as a reasonably priced babysitter is $15 an hour, and that's like the sweet 14-year-old girl across the street. If you want an actual adult, someone who could come in and handle a situation if it goes wrong, you are north of $25 an hour. I mean, easily north. I mean, you're into that $30 an hour range. If you're using any kind of an app or sort of a range, if you don't have a relationship, if this is a person who's just coming in, yeah, it's an awful lot of money. I mean, it adds a couple of $100 to any night out that you might want to have. It's brutal.
Wow. Invaders is $40 an hour down there on the bottom. $40 an hour.
I've seen it. I've seen that number. I've been quoted that number, and then I've turned around and told Jillian, we're staying home tonight. We're not going out.
You may want to just give the kids away at that point if there's $40 an hour. All right, we're off and running. What are we talking about?
So here's the deal. Next week, positive vibes only, right? Next week, we want to have all sorts of what can go right, what can actually help the 49ers in this upcoming draft. And we're not going to put that negative juju in the air, Larry. Not you, not me. We're not going to do that. But let's do that today.
We're going negative today.
It's not really going negative as much as I just want to look at this from there's no such thing as a draft pick that everyone didn't fall in love with immediately. And then that guy didn't work out and everyone pretends that they didn't fall in love with that pick immediately or do a video about how good he was going to be and then he wasn't and all that stuff.
Except the kicker and the punter.
How did
Yeah,
the 49ers?
those were universally panned. Jake Moody and Mitch Wishnowsky. And Wishnowski's been good, and who knows what Jake will be, but the kicker and the punter picks usually get panned.
They are panned. You don't like to see that value, but if both those guys are on this roster for the next 8 to 10 years, they were good picks. There you go. We'll know at the end, right? Not at the beginning. And Wishnowski's already a fabulous punter. There's no regrets there. How would the 49ers screw this up? What would feel like the wrong move if this was the big move that they made to then set themselves up for this draft? What would feel funny? What would make you go, I don't know if they played that the right way? The first thing that I think of in what could go wrong is the decision to trade Aiyuk is made, and then whatever player turns out being the big pick that they get for trading Aiyuk just doesn't work out. So not only do you not have Brandon Aiyuk, but now you don't have the answer at interior lineman or interior defensive lineman, whatever you were looking for, the corner, the whatever the pick Aiyuk became, not working out, and not having Aiyuk or the service of a player who's been disappointing. That to me is the single most devastating everything went wrong in this draft scenario almost there is, right?
Right. That's, you're kind of judging it though from behind. So like, you're not actually saying, well, if they traded Aiyuk and they drafted player X, you're just saying if they traded Aiyuk and they drafted a player that didn't turn out to be good. So that we're not going to know that like next week. We're going to, that's going to be
right. The pick
down the road.
Right.
I'll get more specific.
Yeah. The pick they got for Aiyuk becomes Solomon Thomas 2.0. Shit.
Yeah. I could go position by position of their needs. I mean, to me, any trade up for a tackle who might eventually actually be a guard is going to be a major gaffe. So if they trade up for Graham Barton and he becomes a guard, that's a fuck up. If they trade up for Jordan Morgan, kind of a short arm tackle who's thought to be ready to go right now, and then they don't play him right now, but he's got this limited upside short arm tackle who's very polished, that to me would be a screw up. So I don't, as far as exactly specific players, I think Jordan Morgan of the tackles is the guy that's kind of like low end. I'm not going to be happy with that. I'm not going to be happy with the Yale tackle who's coming off a quad injury being drafted in the first round because of his potential. Okay. Especially not when you're likely to go with Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz at tackle. So I would say Karan Amagaji and Jordan Morgan would be, in my mind, really, really disappointing picks.
Those would be
31.
staggering. Those would be huge reaches, though, right? I mean, we're not seeing those names on
lots of people. No, really? I mean, Jordan Morgan's mocked at 41, and a lot of people think that he might be the pick. I forget who mocked it the other day, but somebody had Jordan Morgan. It was Kuiper. Kuiper had the Niners taking Jordan Morgan at 31. So, yeah, if they go Jordan Morgan at 31, or if they traded up for Jordan Morgan or traded up and drafted Karan Amagaji, if you trade up from 31 to take a guy that most people have in the 40s or 50s, that's going to be, you got to be kidding me. Now that's the offensive tackle. Now let's move to a couple of their other spots that they're showing interest in, which would be defensive line. I personally think, it's all, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I've been wrong before. So I'm not going to, I don't have like a huge negative thought really on any of the defensive linemen. I kind of like, if it's Byron Murphy, I'm okay. If it's Johnny Newton, I'm okay. I like the speed, effect of Braden Fisk. I like Rook Orororo. I like Mason Smith. There's a number of defensive linemen, and I like a lot of those guys.
What do you think of Jerzon Newton out of Illinois?
I like him. I like Johnny Newton. Yeah, I like him. To me, another disappointment one would be if you traded up or if you took Chop Robinson. He wasn't that productive. And, you can make an argument he's not even the best Penn State defensive end. He has great workout numbers, but workout numbers to me are not a first round pick in and of themselves. So Chop Robinson would be really disappointing to me. And then wide receiver wise, to me, if you traded up super high in the draft and took Rome Odunze over, Malik Neighbors or, any of these elite receivers, I don't think Rome Odunze is as good as Harrison, Neighbors, Brian Thomas. I also am not a big fan of Troy Franklin from Oregon, not a big fan of Ladd McConkey.
It feels like Troy Franklin is becoming like we're hearing more about him now than we did 2 weeks ago.
Well, and he's right in that group. To me, he's a little undersized. I think everything in the Pac-12 favors the receiver. If you took Ladd McConkey, I think Ladd McConkey is a good player, but I think there's durability concerns, and people are like, well, if you say to the Ladd McConkey fans, he only scored 2 touchdowns, he was hurt. Okay, so then if you say to them, well, you know what, I think he's not durable enough, it's like, well, how can you project? Well, so in other words, there is all roads lead to Ladd McConkey. You know what I mean? It's like, so there is there's no downside of Ladd McConkey.
I mean, Heisman Trophy winner Ladd McConkey, is that who you're telling me about here?
Well, I'm just saying it's just like, that idea that, if you say he is not productive enough and then people say he's hurt and then you say, well, I'm worried about his durability and people say, oh, it's just luck. He's a slightly built guy at 185 pounds. He ran for the stopwatch. I don't see that kind of 4.3 speed in his route running. So I don't think he plays that fast. So that would be a huge disappointment for me. And the other guy that I would say, that would be a huge disappointment for me would be Nate Wiggins. And a lot of people we're talking corner now, the Clemson corner. He's so thin. I mean, this guy looks like he would break the first hit he has. I mean, is he burning fast? Yeah, but he is so thin, and that concerns me. Now, Emmanuel Forbes was really thin last year for the Commanders, and he had a pretty good year, but you're still talking about anybody who's under, 170 pounds is really concerning. I think Wiggins was like in the high 160s or low 170s at the workout, and he looked just so thin. So to me, if you go for the speed corner with Wiggins, that's a concern. Also, Kamari Lassiter from Georgia had a really slow 40 time. I don't like the corners that can't run. You know what I mean?
That's a non-option right there. I don't want a slow corner. I don't think anyone does.
So,
by the way, can you take down Invader Niner $40 an hour? His avatar is disturbing me. What is that? What the hell is that? I don't know. It looks like a horror movie. I don't know what that is.
One of my favorite chatters.
I love the guy, but the avatar, I couldn't stop looking at it. It's freaking creeping me out of the corner of my eye there.
So those are the ones for me that I would be like, you know what? Or any kind of a trade up involving Aiyuk where you get just some player that's not going to play. So an offensive lineman that you say, yeah, you know what, 2 years from now, this guy's going to be Trent Williams' replacement. No. You're in 2 years from now is an eternity. None of us could be here at that point. So, I mean, it's just, who knows? I mean, it's just like, don't draft for 2 years from now inside your championship window, inside your Super Bowl window. And they are inside their Super Bowl window. So to me, almost all of my concerns would either be raw players that need coaching or injury risks, guys that I view as injury risks, or trading up for, players that the 12 mock drafts have in the 50s and you took them you traded from 41 to 26 and gave away tons of draft capital to take a guy that the vast majority of the people had 25 picks later. And then you're going to tell us, well, your intel is so much more about, you knew some team was going to take some player that's 40 picks beneath your deal, and you traded up and gave away like 5 picks to get up there. That I'm not loving that. And then I guess other than that, it would be like maybe like a reach. Like, to me, the tight end board is Brock Bowers is a true first round pick. Nobody else at tight end belongs anywhere in the first 2 rounds. I mean, Jatavion Sanders is a mover, but I mean, even he would be like a late second round pick. If you get into the second round and you're taking, Cade Stover from Ohio State or Theo Johnson, who's, on the board in the 90s, and you're, taking him in the second round, that to me would be a major reach. So I just don't want to see them. I want to see them, get as much bang for their buck as possible.
What would you think if they didn't get themselves involved in an aggressive trade to move up the board, but they get to 31 and somebody knocks on their door and they move back?
I love it. And believe me, I know there's going to be a lot of disappointed people on Thursday night if you tune in. Your whole day is it's draft day. It's draft day. And I'm drinking out of my Niner mug and I'm wearing my jersey and I've got people coming over and we're going to have hors d'oeuvres and we're going to queue. And then you make your whole day about it. And then it's 5:00 and here comes the draft. And now it's 8:30 and the Niners are on the clock and they trade out of the pick. And you're going to be like, oh, man, that sucks. Get ready for that.
It might be the right thing to do.
Well, but get ready for it, too, because the way the quarterback board is set, there's going to be 4 guys that go in the first round, and then there's going to be 2 guys that could go in the first round. And what's going to happen is if they don't go in the first round and you get to 29, 30, then the Niners' phone is going to ring from teams that want to have that 5th-year option on Michael Penix or Bo Nix, and they're going to be saying, hey, we'll give you our high second-round pick or mid-second-round pick and something else to get out of that spot so that we can get that 5th-year option. So I would say the Niners, if Penix and Nix are on the board at 30, a pick before them, their phone is going to be ringing from those second-round teams that want a quarterback, and I would take that deal. So I actually think that's a good thing, unless Brock Bowers fell to them, or some crazy pick in the teens fell to them, and all of a sudden then I don't like the idea of trading out of the first round. But trading out of the first round, to me, if somebody's coming knocking for the quarterbacks, is probably a smart move.
I think it is too. I wouldn't be very disappointed either, because the 49ers just need depth at a lot of positions that, feel like they're offering some depth in this draft. I think that there are NFL starters who are we're going to see them on day 4, Larry, or day 3 in 4th round is what I meant. You're going to see real talent all over this draft. So I wouldn't be upset at all if the 49ers played this cautiously and moved back a little. That brings us a little bit to, I think, another story that you and I were talking about that we wanted to get on the air today. Bill Barnwell, a very plugged-in guy, does an annual, let's get crazy. Every team is going to make a trade in this draft. Bill Barnwell has the 49ers trading Aiyuk, 31, and then, another later round pick. A third.
It's Brandon Aiyuk. I think where I read this, and it was Brandon Aiyuk, their first round pick, 31, their third round pick to the Chargers for the 5th pick in the draft and the Chargers' 6th round pick. And this was his mock that he does every year where he makes a trade.
Right.
Every team
involved in a trade, and no trade corresponds to any other trade. He's like, this is in a vacuum.
Yeah, and I didn't read every trade, but I did see the Niner trade, and I think I think I would do this trade. If I were the Niners, I would do this trade. The Chargers have the 5th most cap room in the NFL after all their restructures. I know they were hugged up against the cap, but they restructured Khalil, they restructured Bosa, they parted ways with Keenan Allen, they parted ways with Mike Williams. They don't really have any real receivers, and yet they want to win. And Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is not taking over a program with a 5-year plan.
This is not
he wants to win the Super Bowl this year.
Right.
That's the way he was when he took over the Niners. And that's the way he wants a quick turnaround. And he's got a great quarterback who has in Justin Herbert, who has no receivers. And then rookie receivers are, even the best rookie receivers are hit and miss. Belichick said it the other day on ESPN. Quarterbacks and receivers in round one, history tells you, are truly a 50-50 proposition. So you don't want to, and yet he's staring at potentially the need for a receiver. And you could get Aiyuk and, pick 31 and a 3rd-round pick, which you might be able to take Blake Corum with. And, the one thing about Aiyuk is Aiyuk blocks. Jim Harbaugh wants to run the football. You got to have receivers down the field who block. Aiyuk blocks in the run game. There's no doubt that Harbaugh and Aiyuk would love each other. And for the Niners, Malik Neighbors is better than Aiyuk, I think. I mean, obviously,
whoa. I hear what you're saying.
He's better than Aiyuk.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
He's better. He's better than Aiyuk. He's better at the same point. Aiyuk was a pick in the 20s. This guy's a total blue chipper. This is the best This is the best receiver in college football, who runs in the 4.3s, who played at LSU, dominated the SEC. This is a great player. I mean, and this is, I think, where the Niners are with Aiyuk. If you want to be brutally honest, I think they look at Aiyuk as a very good receiver. He probably wants to be paid $30 million. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So in this trade, if you think about it from the Niner perspective, you're trading a receiver that you can't afford, that you have to trade, that you probably have to trade. You're trading 31, which is, a late 1st-round pick, very speculative, and a 3rd, and you're getting a star type player. You're getting a guy who could be easily your best. This is not Kinlaw and Buckner. This is not that. This is, Neighbors is a far cleaner prospect than Kinlaw ever was. And Shanahan knows receivers. This guy gets separation. This guy's got speed. This guy runs away from you. This is a great player. I like Malik Neighbors the most of all of the receivers in the draft. And I know it's a gamble, but if you're in that mindset that Aiyuk's going to demand $30 million and you're only willing to pay 24, then why wouldn't you make this trade?
I mean, I don't know if the Chargers would make that trade, to be honest with you. I don't know if the Chargers would make that trade.
I think they would, because I think they
throwing out everyone. We're not just pulling this out of thin air. Bill Barnwell projected this.
I think the Chargers would make this trade, because I think that they know that they've got to, they're trying to win right now. They're trying to win right now. And this is who's
trying to win right now?
Chargers.
What are the 49ers doing, Larry? Do you think they're trying to win right now?
Yeah, but the 49ers can't afford Brandon Aiyuk at $30 million. And I don't think the 49ers want to pay Brandon Aiyuk $40 million, $30 million. I mean, it really comes down to, what do you think Aiyuk's going to cost? And, this whole story, with the agent pushing back on Chase Sr., why is he pushing back on Chase Sr.? And it's like he's pushing back. He's mad at Chase Sr. for repeating a report out of Pittsburgh. Why not push back on the report? And while we're there, why not push back on your client who, if you don't like speculation about, if you want to control the narrative and you don't like the speculation, the wild speculation, then why is your client unfollowing the Niners?
Right.
And why is your client contacting Mike Tomlin and communicating with him on social media? I think there's, why don't you push back on that? So I just think that where there's smoke, there's fire. And the Purdy quote the other day that we talked about really that really didn't sound like Aiyuk's coming back. I'm not rooting for Aiyuk to be traded, but there's no reason to pay Aiyuk $30 million when his utilization is
hold on. Let's look at it this way, right?
receptions a playoff game.
Let's look at it this way. Let's pretend Brandon Aiyuk just did exactly what he did, but he did it for another team. And another team was considering trading Brandon Aiyuk. Are the 49ers trading for Brandon Aiyuk?
Teams are trading for a veteran receiver over a rookie receiver if they have pressure to win now. Why? Because as we just said, rookie receivers take time. Rookie receivers are about a 50-50 proposition. So that's it.
And that includes your kid from LSU. God, that includes Marvin Harrison Jr., right? I mean,
well, I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I personally think that every draft has, there's quarterbacks are really hard to handicap, but every draft has blue chip players. You either have the conviction or you don't. You either have a conviction they're going to be great or you don't. And if the 49ers, after watching all the film, have a conviction, like I do, that Malik Neighbors is going to be a really damn good NFL receiver, and you can get him, maybe get the better receiver and get out from underneath a $30 million commitment, you're going to have Malik Neighbors for the next 4 years on a rookie salary.
Do you think that Malik Neighbors would be a better do you think Malik Neighbors is going to be better at wide receiver than Joe Alt's about to be at tackle? Because if you did trade up to 5, all of a sudden, here's the deal, Larry. If the 49ers were to do this hypothetical trade with the Chargers that got them to 5, essentially the 49ers now have the first pick in the draft, because they're not in the quarterback market right now. And there could be 4 quarterbacks off the board, which means you get the rest of the board in front of you. The rest of the board, you're taking Malik Neighbors over Joe Alt. You're taking Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison Jr. You're taking him you're taking him over Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers could be the choice at 5. If the Niners,
the history of tight ends in the first round is not good. I love Brock Bowers. I think he's kind of a blue chipper.
He's like a Napa kid too, isn't he? Isn't he from the Bay Area?
Yeah, he's from Napa. These guys would all get consideration. I'm not saying that I wouldn't consider any of these guys, but you just got to remember this. Go into this instead of the mindset of everybody's going to be great. Go into this with everybody's going to fail. Everybody's going to be a bust. And then work back from there. And to me, that's the way to go, because the history shows that a lot of the draft picks are busts. So you gotta envision failure for why these guys all fail. I like Joe Alt, don't get me wrong, but Joe Alt is 6'9", and he's got some of the same foot quickness issues that I saw with McGlinchey. He's a very clean prospect. He's a Notre Dame kid. But I've seen more powerful tackles than Joe Alt. I've seen tackles that have better footwork than Joe Alt. Everybody loves Joe Alt, but these guys become legends before they're actually legends.
Right. He could be the next Robert Gallery, right?
It's I like Joe Alt, but I watched his film. I don't see anybody who's just destroying people in the run game or has super quick feet. I see a 6'9" guy who looks like a kind of a souped up, better version of Mike McGlinchey. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Alt's going to be a bust, but I don't know that Joe Alt's I don't know if he's Canton bound. But I have questions about many players. I don't like Roma Dunze. To me, I think Penix made him look better than he is. I'm not a big fan of Latu from UCLA. He's had major injuries. There's I don't know.
So let's go back to what you just said.
I watch draft prospects every year. So I'm not just comparing Joe Alt to the tackles in this draft. I'm comparing Joe Alt to tackles that I've seen in the first round for the last decade.
Let's work with the premise that you just spat out, saying everyone's a bust. Everyone busts.
Everyone's a potential bust.
Everyone's
you just have to figure out. The draft is about identifying false favorites because they're all favorites.
Well, then why would you move off Aiyuk? Right.
Because you can't afford him. Because you can't afford him. Why is the agent getting so mad at these reports? Because the agent's tied in with Lynch, and Lynch doesn't have a market for Aiyuk if everybody thinks that he has to move him. So they're going to push back on any notion that they have to move him.
Right. John Lynch wants everyone to think the business is open. And that's the smart thing to do. That's the right way to present this facing forward if you are John Lynch.
Right. Because if everybody thinks you got to move the player, you're not going to get very much. So he doesn't want anything out there along those lines. He wants to paint a picture of, we got this. This is our guy. We got this. And I just think him and the agent, sometimes the GM and the agent are not working in cahoots, but John Lynch was the best man at this guy's wedding, supposedly. So these guys are definitely in lockstep on their plan. But if you're the agent, why are you so worried about any kind of trade talk being out there? If I think Brandon Aiyuk gets traded from the 49ers to any team, guess what that does? That means that your leverage for getting $30 million goes up, because now the team that has Aiyuk just traded a first-round pick to get him. And so now you think they're going to you're not going to get your price. You're going to get your price better if he gets traded than if he doesn't. If he stays in the Niners, he's probably not getting $30 million. But if he goes to the Steelers and they give up a first-round pick, or he goes to the Jaguars, they give up a first-round pick, now you have the leverage of, they just traded their first-round pick for this guy.
Oh yeah, it's incredible leverage. You just you just pot committed yourself to this player. You can't pull out of the poker game now. So yeah, Aiyuk probably finds a better dollar amount in a trade than staying. I don't know if he finds a better situation. And situations
probably doesn't.
Situations can dictate off-field dollars, and that's what I would be selling too if I were the 49ers. Brandon Aiyuk, we are. Like, did you see what happens when we go on the road here, Brandon? Like, did you see the amount of our jerseys dwarfing the home team jerseys in any stadium we play in? Like, you have a better opportunity to become a household name right here than going to Pittsburgh and trying to figure out whether, Pittsburgh's going to be like, is it Russell Wilson? Is it Justin Fields? Like, Like, do you want to go through who's your quarterback again? Hasn't Brandon Aiyuk been through enough of that? I understand why John Lynch.
Didn't Schefter just say, though, the other day, hey, you know what? His reports say that Aiyuk would rather get his bag and have it be the big bag than get a lesser bag and stay with the Niners. That was Schefter's
I saw that, but I don't know what to believe these days. And I do think that there's a chess game of trying to sway the discussion going on between Team Aiyuk and Team Niners, and both of them are playing the game in ways that benefit them. So it looks like they're at odds. I don't think they really are at all. This is negotiation 101 in modern times. The opening gambit is player unfollows the team he's on.
Yeah, but there's a difference between odds and budget. Prague is very shrewd negotiator. They have a price. If Aiyuk wants to make $30 million a year, I think he's gone. I don't think they're giving him in the midst of they're going to pay Brock Purdy $50 million potentially. They're now going to pay Brandon Aiyuk $30 million on a team that was 30th in the NFL in rush attempts, or in pass attempts, I should say. That doesn't make sense, and that's not a good use of your money, I don't think. I love Aiyuk. The Niners love Aiyuk. but they've got a price. And if he goes beyond their price, they're not just going to cave. And then there's the other part of the report, which was that the Steelers want the 49ers to pay some of that salary for Aiyuk this year to get a good draft haul. So then you're like, okay, wait a second. So now if we trade him, you want us to pay for that? So there's a big time negotiation going on here. And John Lynch is only going to get what he wants if there's a market that includes more than one team. So, this idea that I just think there's a lot of moving parts here. But I ultimately think that if Aiyuk really wants to be paid like Justin Jefferson or, one of the elite guys, I think he's probably going to get moved. We'll see. I hope he doesn't get moved, because who wants to move your best fucking wide receiver inside your Super Bowl window? It doesn't make sense. But the Niners are stacked. They got a very expensive quarterback. I think he's going to have a record-setting deal. I know that's going to blow people out of the water and be like, dude, Mr. Irrelevant's making $50 million, but that's coming because Brock Purdy, look what Brock Purdy's done. They've gone to the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl in back-to-back years. So he's going to get the big, big bag. And I don't think while he's getting the big, big bag that they can pay Aiyuk like the best receiver in football. And I think that's what he wants.
By the way, Chef A is in here with the super chat saying, hey, Jerry Rice's kid. When in doubt, go to a Rice to solve all your 49er wide receiver problems. It's worked in the past. Maybe it'll work in the future. Obviously not in the first round. But yeah, Jerry Rice's son could absolutely be a day 3 option for the 49ers. That I could see that happening. Sure.
Well, I don't know.
Not in the first round.
I mean, I could see anything happening, but Jerry's kid has said, Jerry made his name in San Francisco, and I'd like, maybe like to make my name somewhere else. So
sure.
I don't know that
it's a big.
I don't know that he wants to be in San Francisco, and Jerry's kid isn't, Jerry's kid. I mean, now we're talking about Jerry's kid like he's, it's like a telethon. Jerry's son, maybe better phrased, is more kind of along the lines of Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
He's a route runner. He's got great ball skills. He's not Aiyuk. He's not a replacement for Aiyuk. He's nothing close to a replacement for Aiyuk. Now, Malik Neighbors would be. And that's the thing. If you're a Niner, if you're the Niners, and back to the Barnwell trade, I love Xavier Legette, but there's risk there. He's a 1-year starter, and some of the other receivers that you're going to be looking at, let's just say the Niners decided, hey, you know what? We want to go receiver, and we want to go receiver in the first round. Okay, so Harrison's gone, Neighbors is gone, Adunze's gone, Brian Thomas is gone, and now you're looking at Troy Franklin, Ladd McConkey, speedster Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman, who ran 4.6, Xavier Legette, who had one good year at South Carolina, Roman Wilson, who doesn't break tackles, and Adonai Mitchell.
Shot at Roman Wilson, kind of right there.
I like Adonai Mitchell, but I mean, even he, that's to say that Adonai Mitchell or Ricky Pearsall or Xavier Legette or Malachi Corley could replicate Aiyuk. No, I don't think you can bank on those guys to replicate Aiyuk. That's why the Malik Neighbors thing is so interesting.
By the way, Mark Graves is Jerry's kid. Let's go to the board. Oh, totally. That's what Ed McMahon used to do. I'd be like, timpani, let's go to the board. Let's look. That's the only time I've ever heard the word timpani. Anyway?
I mean, I kept calling him Jerry's kid, and then just all of a sudden it hit me.
Yeah, I remember as a little kid being very, very inspired by that telethon and walking around my neighborhood with like a Folgers coffee can, and trying to raise money for muscular dystrophy. And I remember going up to to some neighbor's patio. And they're like, well, how do I know you're not going to keep that money? And I remember I was like an 11-year-old kid. And I'm like, if you really think that I am going to keep the money that I'm collecting from muscular dystrophy. I think that's the first time I ever told an adult to go fuck themselves. I was like, you got to be kidding me. What? Seriously? Like I'm doing
bad karma.
You see
bad karma when you're calling. It's bad karma when you're calling fraud on the UNICEF kid. It's like, hey man, we're collecting some pennies for UNICEF. Are you gonna spend that?
Yeah. March of dimes. How many dimes do you want? This feels funny. Let me read from something Matt Mayoko wrote about the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation. And the Aiyuk situation, look, I know that I said earlier this week, I'm sick and tired of talking about it. It is fascinating, though, because
it's this year's Lance Purdy juicy debate. You can sit there and talk about offensive linemen and analyze that if you want, but this is a receiver who's contacted another NFL head coach who's taken his stuff off of social media connected to the Niners, and now whose agent is pushing back not on reports that the Steelers have interest, on people's commenting on reports that the Steelers have interest. There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on, and there's also a murky process to the evaluation. What does he mean? How should he be paid on the Niners? How should he be paid on another team? How is he in comparison to the top shelf liquor of best wide receivers in football? Is he on that shelf? Is he just on the shelf below? Like there's a murkiness to his actual value, to the team he's on, to the team that he could join, and to the league at all. So it's a fascinating situation.
Ethan Strauss on last night, and he had a genius comment. And he's like, all that Cam Newton talk about Brock Purdy, is he a game changer or is he a game manager? In a lot of ways, that's a better conversation for these receivers. Is Brandon Aiyuk a game changer or just a very good wide receiver? And
right.
That's a great question. Really, it is.
Does Kyle Shanahan run them wide open? And if Kyle Shanahan is running them wide open with scheme, we'll just get the next guy in there. It is a good point. At the same time, though, I mean, we've seen a lot of next guys in there not catch footballs, but we've also seen a lot of next guys in there under Shanahan not catch footballs from quarterbacks that came with questions. And I'm not saying that Brock Purdy is now beyond the realm of questioning. Hold on. Before I get to the Aiyuk thing, since we're on this topic now, let me just ask you this. And I think
you wanted to go with the Mayoko thing, and
no. You got me. My brain jogging in another direction. That's again. These aren't planned segments. We don't have to hit a commercial break. We can jam, baby. Fish is at the spear, Larry. We can jam. We can take a tweezer and we can pull it out and we can go 35 minutes with it if we want. There's no rules.
We don't have a 26-year-old, producer who lives in a flop house in the Tenderloin saying, "Hey guys, stop talking about this" in our ear. Wrap it up. I don't know shit, and I don't even have a college degree. But guess what? You guys need to wrap this up because we need to get back to Wiggins.
Yeah, I will say this. When you're asking me about babysitter prices in the first 4 minutes of the video, that's when I'm like, wrap it
up. There's no PD running down the hall going, Krueger, what the hell? What the fuck? That's Agnew. That was that.
Get him off! Get him
Krueger, what the fuck? What the fuck? That was Agnew. Right. Krueger, what the fuck? What the fuck? And I'm like, Bob, do you have anything constructive to say?
Yeah, just asking what the fuck.
What the fuck?
It's his only question. He wanted to know what the fuck was. I told him. I was like, it's a fuck. Yeah. That's what it is.
Krueger, it's Agnew. What the fuck? What are you doing down there?
All right, let's put this train back on the tracks.
All right.
What do the 49ers really think of Brock Purdy? Do you really think? Hold on, I know. No, but you love him to the point of he's about to get a huge contract. Do you really think this guy with health is your quarterback for the decade?
Full stop. Yes,
I do too.
And I've been saying this for about a year and a half, that this is the guy, and they've been saying it for almost that long as well. This is the guy. Just
So-
nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wanted to listen to it. Nobody wanted to believe it. And it's amazing where we're at, isn't it?
If
I think
this-
now even all, I don't know, a quick question to you. You heard all the dissenters. You heard all the questioners. Is everybody won over on Brock now that he went to an NFC title game, had a major injury, rehabbed it, went to the Super Bowl, and played with poise in the Super Bowl? Do you think that he is now officially silenced all of the dissent?
No, because there's
No?
attention in dissent. And so I truly
Okay.
truly believe that people will continue to insist the car that finished first in the Daytona 500 lost the race. I mean, we live in that world where there's no amount of reality or data points that have been presented that are going to change my mind. He can't play. And we know that. We know people seek attention more than they seek truth or reality or real answers who are in the game of doubting Brock Purdy. We know that, Larry. We know that. So there will always be that camp out there.
But that's about biz. That's about clicks. That's about pay attention to my blog, my vlog, my YouTube channel.
Right. That's why.
But beyond that, do you think there are people out there who still are like, he's not the guy because of A, B, C, D, E?
Yes.
Well, really?
Yeah, I do. I think there are people out there. I don't know how informed they are or how much 49er football they watch over the course of like a 17-game schedule. They're sort of looking at the team from the outside in. Yeah, I mean, I do think there. And look, I also think that Brock Purdy leaves reasonable doubt on the table. Just his starting point is always going to be scored against him, no matter what he does. No matter what he does, it's always going to be scored against him. Not in the way that it's a great story either. It's going to be used against him. His physical stature, his calm, quiet demeanor, which for some reason you'd think would be attached to professionalism. People will say like, "Oh, he doesn't have enough fire." We saw that stupidity already this week.
No,
So
that was the best. That one was the worst of all of them.
That really was.
He's got a huge arm. He's got an unbelievable arm talent. But, he's just he doesn't have enough fire.
Which is actually the total opposite of what it is. He's a dog whose doggedness makes up for the fact that his arm talent isn't the greatest arm we've ever seen in football. So it's they got that one totally wrong. Anyways, forget about you, forget about me, forget about fans, forget about bloggers, forget about content creators. What do the 49ers think Brock Purdy really is? And if they think Brock Purdy, if I can use an old Latin phrase, is the fucking man, that's Latin, Larry. If they think Brock Purdy is the man of all men and he is our guy, well, then they're not going to be the team that throws the ball the least in football going forward, right? I mean, they're going to ask Brock Purdy to start playing in a manner which should theoretically change the 49ers game plan, not in every game, but week to week. When they have opportunities to attack in the passing game, if this quarterback is the man, they're going to do that. So that kind of brings me back to the Matt Mayoko article, where Mayoko writes, if the Eagles can afford A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith with the fourth highest paid quarterback in the league, then the 49ers should be able to keep Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel with the quarterback at the bottom of an NFL pay scale, right? And, obviously there's the rest of the roster to consider. And I think that the 49ers have a better roster than the Eagles, but the Eagles are right there. They're a very good team. Mayoko.
I mean, that's cherry picking three players. They have different salaries. I mean, what are the Niners paying their O-line? What are the Niners paying their D-line? You know what I mean?
Right. I get the premise, though, of what he's saying.
Yeah.
Depending on the compensation package, general manager John Lynch would take a major gamble in parting ways with Brock Purdy's favorite target and a player at a position in which the 49ers are woefully thin. After Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel, the 49ers' best wide receiver is Juwan Jennings. I think you and I both like Juwan Jennings. You know what you're not going to like? Are Juwan Jennings' numbers from last year. Juwan Jennings was a massive afterthought. He hardly did a thing. It's just he did it mostly on third down, so he would stand out as a memorable moment in the game. Just without looking,
because their offense is a two-back offense,
right? Without looking, how many catches did Juwan Jennings have last year?
He had big catches, but
right.
he's you got to remember this: they're a two-back offense. If you have two backs, two receivers, and two tight ends, he's your third receiver.
Okay, so
you know what I mean, or if you have two backs, one tight end, and two receivers, so they don't have a three wide receiver offense or a one back offense. They go with a two back offense, a lot. So
sure, but with injuries to Samuel, with injuries at a point in time to Aiyuk, like he was out there, and every now and then they do throw three wide receivers out there. But yes,
he had more catches than Aiyuk and Debo in the Super Bowl.
He did. How many catches did he have on the year, though?
Don't 40? Look. I don't know, 40.
19.
Yeah, that's it. It wasn't a lot.
19.
But he's also a blocker.
265 yards in 13 games is all we saw out of Juwan Jennings. And he's your third receiver right now. The 49ers don't even have a fourth receiver at this point, writes Matt Mayoko. I guess that was before Trent Taylor walked back into the room. Let
me push back here. First of all, they do have good receivers. I like Ronnie Bell. I like Chris Conley. I like Tay Martin. And if you want to sign an offensive tackle tomorrow, good luck. You want to sign a receiver tomorrow, you can go sign Tyler Boyd. This is also like the fourth year in a row that there's been an incredibly deep crop of receivers entering the league. So receivers are plentiful. They're everywhere. Now, not Brandon Aiyuk type receivers, but receivers overall are plentiful. They could find a replacement at receiver. If Trent Williams went down, there's no replacement. If Kittle goes down, good luck finding a replacement. If Mooney goes down, good luck finding a replacement. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess we go back to then the original question. What do they really think of Brandon Aiyuk? And if you think Brandon Aiyuk is a card-carrying member of the man club, then you can say goodbye to Brandon Aiyuk and bring in the next guy, whether he be a high-round draft pick, a day 3 pick, a day 2 pick. Juwan Jennings, we're going to ask you to do more. Finally, Ronnie Bell, welcome to the NFL. Danny Gray, you turn into an actual human being this year instead of being a rumor. Then your team is, I'm Gene Hackman in Hoosiers. My team's on the floor. Like if Brock Purdy is the fucking man, then it really doesn't matter who the wide receivers are.
Well, that's not true.
I mean, you can't be selecting randos out of the fans,
It can't be us. It can't be us.
No, you need an NFL quality caliber, and
it's not about
NFL court. The average NFL wide receiver should instantly get better the minute he is introduced to a quarterback who carries the man card. Is that what's happened with Brandon Aiyuk? Is Brandon Aiyuk as good as Brock Purdy made him, or did Brock Purdy put up those kind of numbers because of Aiyuk, or is it the other way around?
Neither. I mean, it's not like Aiyuk, it's not like Purdy. It's not like if Aiyuk isn't there, Purdy's going to suck. He's just going to be awful. It's all Aiyuk, but great, receivers help make great quarterbacks, and the same thing could be said in reverse. It's not about, we always talk about these things like it's like they don't like him. You can love somebody, but you can't afford them. That's really it. You go look at houses. Your wife loves this house. It's $400,000 more than you can afford. You gotta, everybody's got to live within a budget. It's a hard cap. So I think the Niners love Aiyuk, but I think Aiyuk, because of the year that he had and the market that's exploding for receivers. Damon, it's no coincidence that several great receivers have been traded in the last few years because guys want to get paid the big bag, and the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs just won the Super Bowl with receivers that didn't even catch the ball well. So, it's like, I think that the Niners I don't think they're being dishonest when they say we love Aiyuk. But I also think that they absolutely have a walkaway price. And I think that he's already exceeded it. And my guess is his ask has already exceeded their walkaway price, and that they just don't want everybody to know it. They don't want everybody to know that their walkaway price was $23 million and this guy wants 30. And so Lynch has a good relationship with the agent, good relationship with the player, and they've probably said, "Hey, you know what? Work out at the facility. Let's if you want me to get you to a place, then you got to work with me and help me, maintain your value. You can't just be like, hey, you know what? I'm out the door." But I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's obviously some bad blood there between what he's asked for and the way they've handled it. If you told me that he's already asked for more than they're willing to pay, and they kind of already know that he's moving on. I mean, Brock Purdy's a pretty honest guy. That quote the other day where he's like, Brandon's, has meant a lot to my career and this and that. It sounded like they weren't going to be together. It didn't sound like, hey, these guys don't work. Guys, they'll work this out. They'll get this together. He'll be there. No, he's like, I can't get involved. It's above my pay grade. And he made a quote that sounded like Aiyuk and him, like he wasn't going to see Aiyuk again. So I don't know. We'll see. But if you ask me to give you my opinion, which is what we do on these live streams, I'm not wishing for Aiyuk to be gone. Who would? He's their best wide receiver easily. But the quarterback's going to get paid first, and everything's going to be about budget after that. And I don't think he fits their budget. Simple as that. And I think Lynch and the agent are working together because they don't want anybody to know that they have to move Brandon Aiyuk. Because if you have to move Brandon Aiyuk, you're getting pennies on the dollar, right? The Niners have to move Brandon Aiyuk.
What about signing Brandon Aiyuk, keeping him in, knowing that he can fit now, figuring out a way to make him fit now, knowing that it's going to be a short-term sort of engagement, because when Brock does get paid, we're
they don't have. It's not like they have to move off of Aiyuk.
Right, we're worried about
this is the opportunity. But here's this is the one thing you're forgetting. Next year, he walks. You get a compensatory third at the end of the third, a pick somewhere 105. This year, you might be able to get a pick in the top 30, top 35. That's the difference. So,
but you also would have him for the last year of the Brock Purdy economy, which allows you to spend ridiculously everywhere else because you're saving such money on your quarterback. And then you worry about 2025 when you get to 2025. Like, we're putting 2025's salaries ahead of 2024 priorities.
They're also maybe thinking about the locker room, the attitudes, what it does in the room, the dynamic. These players are all very smart. How does the dynamic work out for the Niners if Debo knows he's gone at the end of the year? If there's 3 or 4 guys who know they're gone at the end of the year? I don't know. I'm not sure how that dynamic plays. I mean, only Lynch, who's a former player and an executive and knows his guys, knows how it's going to play in the room. And once again, I'm not rooting for it. I just can see the tea leaves, and I can see this guy who reported this for Pittsburgh is not just a nobody. This guy's connected. This guy has a source. So if the Steelers really feel they're going to get Aiyuk, and they've whispered to this guy, and why is here's the thing. If you walk up to somebody on the street and they weigh 165 pounds and you get in their face and you're like, "You effing fat ass," they look at you like you're crazy and they keep walking. If you're walking down the street and there's somebody 800 pounds and you yell that same thing, they're going to chase you as far as they can before they get tired. Why? Because you struck a nerve, right? Why is the agent pushing back on the dialogue? But he didn't push back on his own client. communicating with Mike Tomlin. He didn't push back on his own client for unfollowing the 49ers, but he's pushing back on this because he wants to control the narrative. Why does he want to control the narrative? Because he doesn't want the notion out there that the Niners have to trade his client. He really shouldn't have an interest in it at all because, as we said before, if they trade his client, he's probably going to have better leverage with the new team anyway. But he's trying to do Lynch a solid. The agent and Lynch are working in cahoots to try to keep this hush-hush so that on the clock when Trent Baalke's picking at 17 and he's saying, man, if I draft a rookie receiver and it's the wrong guy, I'm fired. But if I trade for Brandon Aiyuk, I get a receiver that I know what he's going to do. Heck with it. I'll give him the 17th pick. I'll pay the salary. That I really think they want to control the narrative because they want to eliminate the thought process of the Niners have to move Aiyuk, which undercuts their leverage, which makes it hard for them to get, premium value, which is what the Niners ultimately want if they're going to move off of the players. So to me, you got to hear what people are saying, but you got to ask yourself, why are they saying it? There's so many Niner fans that are just looking at it going, Aiyuk's my favorite Niner. Aiyuk's better than Debo. Aiyuk's their best receiver. I want Aiyuk on the team. Of course, every football fan wants their best players to be on the team, and he's one of their best players. We all get that. But this is the pinch that they're in right now. And it's like, what do you want to do? You want to let him walk next year because you can't afford him for a compensatory third, or you want to move him a year early and get a first? That's where we're at. I really believe. And this is a nice receiver draft. There are guys. I mean, it's not like Xavier Legette's a bum or Malachi Corley's a bum. These are good receivers. So
right.
It's not like
your questions attached to them.
And you might be able to sign a Tyler Boyd to go with them. You might be able to trade for a player. I mean, there's other options.
Believe that Brock Purdy is about to be the man and the quarterback of the 49ers for 8 to 10 years here, then you really shouldn't be tiptoeing around tough decisions at wide receiver, because Purdy's talent alone should be the deciding factor on a lot of guys that you bring in. So,
and then you got a bunch of teams like Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo is desperate for a wide receiver. Desperate. They pick 28. Would the Niners take 28 straight up for Aiyuk? I don't know that I would, but maybe you could get Brandon Beane to give you 28 and a player, or 28 and another pick, because Buffalo is desperate for a wide receiver, and Pittsburgh's desperate to go to the playoffs, and Trent Baalke's desperate not to get his ass fired, which he will be fired if they don't make the playoffs.
I will say this, though. How are you going to I mean, this year, I think he makes north of 30. Next year, the number goes to north of 60 for Josh Allen. How could the Buffalo Bills have $90 million wrapped up in Josh Allen and Brandon Aiyuk?
Yeah, well, I couldn't speak to the intricacies of Buffalo's cap at this second, so I don't have an answer for you on that one. But we do know that receivers in the first round are speculative. We do know that there's 3 or 4 contending teams, or teams that envision themselves as contenders, that really want a receiver and want to contend. So I think that leads them. So, I mean, what are your options? T. Higgins and Brandon Aiyuk. Make a deal.
By the way, JJ Rader saying, ain't no way Josh Allen's getting $60 million a year. The deal's already done, JJ. Go look up Josh Allen on contract. The deal is signed. It's not,
but I mean, when we're talking about
future, $60 million.
Well, I hear what JJ's saying. I mean, you guys are speaking different languages. Yes, he's under contract for that amount next year, but the odds of maybe a restructure that frees up more cap room before next year is probably going to happen, right? So, I mean, yeah, he's going to get paid handsomely, whether he makes $60 million next year or restructures and gets more guaranteed money and it's spread out. You know what I mean?
Josh Allen's cap hit in 2024 is 30.3 mil. In 2025, it's 60.7.
Yeah.
And that is, they can opt out after that. They got a potential out after the 2025 season if they want to walk away from Josh at that point. But again, I almost really think the NFL should do itself a favor and just say quarterback salaries no longer count against your cap. It would make football, teams, fans, everyone better. You would hold on to players that fans identified with, liked, and rooted for. The continuity of not bringing in a whole bunch of new horses to run the race every year would mean you get a crisper, better race out of every single team in the NFL. It just makes sense to provide a little cap relief. I don't know why the NFL, swimming in profits and money, doesn't look at the single easiest way to ensure the fact that they swim in profits and money. I mean, in football, which we all, I think, would agree, sometimes has some ugly ass, choppy games that don't really satisfy from a fantasy standpoint, from an actual football standpoint. Like, the league would get better and become even more watchable if they could keep these teams together even longer. And how can a business already printing its own money print more money? It's by spending more money on these rosters to make teams better, to make games more compelling. I wish the NFL would do that. I really would. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. It's a little wake up Friday before the draft. I've got a little story here on Bill Belichick I'd like to get into. Before we do that, Larry, we've already gone pretty long. Is there any other Niner business that you got to get off your chest before you hit the weekend?
No, for those who are contacting me saying, hey, I heard you were going to talk to Sione Vaki today. I've got such a busy day and Sione's got a busy day. We rescheduled that for Tuesday. So Sione Vaki, the Utah safety, will be on the Krug show, but it'll be on Tuesday and not today. Other than that, all I would say to all these 49er fans who are, mad at Chase Sr. and mad at this guy, mad at me for talking about this. There were a lot of people last year that were mad at me as well for talking about, hey, they're going to trade Trey Lance. And all these people in the chat, the same people last year at this point were like, Krug, you are beating a dead horse. They love Trey Lance. I just heard Lynch say it. They are not trading Trey Lance. Will you stop it? You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. All these name calling, all this. It's like, dude, don't pay attention to what people say. Pay attention to kind of, what they don't say, what they do, what people around the situation are saying, just pump the brakes. I mean, it's like, I get it. I love Brandon Aiyuk too. I talk to him, I go into the locker room and I talk to him and I see his value and he blocks in the run game. He's one of their best players. I think he's their best weapon going forward. But
not named Christian McCaffrey. Let me clean that up for you.
Well, no, I think he's their best weapon going forward. Christian McCaffrey had almost 400 touches this year. How many guys go back to back with close to 400 touches? I think Aiyuk is going to be the best weapon they have going forward. He knows it. His agent knows it. He wants to be paid. Let's just, all I would say to everybody is, just watch this thing play out. Stop with the name calling, stop with the personal assaults, stop with the, we're just talking football. I'm giving you my honest opinion. The one thing that we're doing here is something that was not being done for the most part on the radio, which is we're getting deep on a lot of this stuff. And I get it. It's a little tired at this point, but we're not doing it for clicks. We're doing it because this is the compelling conversation surrounding the most popular sports franchise in this market. And that's why we're doing it. Right. I'm not doing it for clicks. I'm not counting clicks. I don't give a shit that much about clicks. We all want to create compelling content, but I'm not, I've been doing this for too fucking long to sit there and sell out my name and reputation for 2024 shock jock clicks. So stop with the, these YouTube guys are just doing it for clicks. No, we're doing it because it is the most compelling story around the most compelling popular franchise in the market.
And when you have
full stop
the equivalent, I mean, what do you think? What are our combined years covering team? What do we got? 40 combined years of experience here, Larry, covering Bay Area sports. There's a reason why we'll talk about this a lot of times. And, people who have less experience in the market are, wanting you to stick around through this commercial break for another Lester Quionis segment.
Right. You're going to have somebody who's like, hey, coming up next, Brian Price stops by to say jack shit. Okay, you want to go with that? Or you want to talk about the most popular franchise in the market?
Brian Price.
Exactly. He's the Giants pitching coach. I'm just saying, we're not doing this. Everybody's doing whatever they're doing for some reason. They're either doing it because a team's paying them to do it, or they feel like they. We're talking about the most compelling topic on the most compelling franchise that the most people care about. And if you want to say that's for clicks, then fine. But, ultimately, we're talking about what the people care about.
Right.
That's why.
And
that's why so many people watch it.
What's nuts about the amount of complaining that people get based on the show that they're watching is there's a button in on the top of any video you'll ever watch on YouTube that makes it stop instantly. And you don't have to watch any of this. This isn't like over the air broadcast where, hey man, this is my station. I'm listening in the car. And now you're subjecting me to this. No, you came here. Like if you don't like it, you can click away. But we hope that you don't. And it's great to have you here. And we are probably going to ruffle feathers again, because that's what honest discussion does. There's plenty of house organs to listen to out there. And then there's plenty of people who are just 49er fans. And they're
I love 49er fans. And I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this. My favorite thing to do is in the pregame, because I'm hosting the deal with Lo Neal from the Santa Clara Hilton, and I park, in the media lot, and the Santa Clara Hilton's a diagonal across the middle of the parking lot. My favorite thing to do is give myself an extra half hour and walk through the lot, shake hands, take pictures, talk Niners. Those are the real Niner fans, and I love them. And they're drinking, and they're handing me shots of Patron and hamburgers and, all kinds of things, things that we can't even, well, I guess it's legal in California now, but I mean, all kinds of things are being thrown at me as I'm walking across that parking lot. And I love it. I love it. I love talking to real Niner fans, and they're passionate, and they're, and the rank and file Niner fan understands that, man, what we're doing as far as content is enriching their fandom, and that's all I'm here for. That's all you're here for. I like to, my favorite thing to do when I was on the radio was take phone calls. And my favorite thing to do on YouTube is read chats and take video calls and talk with the fans. And when people come up to me and be like, dude, I watch every one of your videos, or, you and Damon after the show, or, whatever they're saying on Mondays, I get a kick out of that. I really do. So, I hope you guys understand. Do I want clicks? Sure. But I'm not willing to just sell my soul for fucking clicks. I'm not. Yeah. I everything that I say on this channel with Damon, with other content creators, I believe wholeheartedly. And as I'm sitting here, I would never, ever, 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 come up with some contrived narrative just for clicks.
Right. We're chasing stories and topics. We're not chasing clicks. You can see
real stories and real topics. And look at the bottom one here. Did you see the bottom comment there?
K Zhang Zai. Okay. Larry Aiyuk posted. Oh, we got an Instagram update. Hold on. The draft.
Aiyuk posted on his IG just now. Brother said we got 6 days and it's fireworks.
Does he mean
does that sound like a guy who's coming back, or a guy who could be traded? What's going to create more fireworks? They re-signed Aiyuk, Or they traded Aiyuk.
Yeah. I mean, that to me sounds like it's going down.
Yeah, big stuff's going down.
Not I'm coming back. It sounds like it's going down.
Yeah.
And
So who knows? Who knows?
And you know what that also speaks to? Brandon Aiyuk realizes that he's got probably more money coming to him in a trade and the leverage of now being the player traded for than coming back to the 49ers. And it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. So, okay, real quick, because we have some Trent Baalke video that I know we want to get to before it's all said and done.
Let me dig that up here. Hold on. Go ahead.
Before we get to that, Connor Orr, for the decomposing body that is now Sports Illustrated, was writing about Bill Belichick. And that's because ESPN recently just put out a story about Bill Belichick saying that his grumpiness basically is the reason why he is not coaching this year, because Bill Belichick is, a sourpuss. And that Arthur Blank, who was sidling up to the idea of hiring Bill Belichick to coach the Falcons, backed off from that idea after Robert Kraft basically said, hey, Arthur, I know you're trying to build this real family feel down there, and I just want you to know that if Bill Belichick is the man who is in charge of your new family feel, you ain't going to have much warmth in that family's room. This is not a warm and fuzzy guy. And that's a reason why Arthur Blank decided, thank you, but no thank you, Bill Belichick.
That's so dirty. It's like,
well, we don't know if it actually happened or not. We don't. Hold on.
Right.
If
it happened, that's so unappreciative.
Right. The ESPN story notes that sources said Kraft made clear to Blank, you'll never have a warm conversation with Bill Belichick. Blank likes coaches who feel part of the family, according to a Falcons source, and it wasn't going to be that way with Bill. Now, a New England spokesperson denied that the team owner, Robert Kraft, ever tried to sink Bill Belichick's candidacy for the Falcons job, writes Connor Orr. It remains unbelievably dumb, says Connor, in my opinion, that Bill Belichick's not coaching in the upcoming 2024 NFL season. And that's just not on the Falcons. This is an indictment on just, why do some franchises stay bad forever? You have an opportunity to replace your underachieving coach with the most overachieving coach of all time. And you passed on that due to he might be grumpy or a little gruff or a little old school or doesn't play the music players like to practice to.
Or he's 28 games under 500 without Tom Brady.
There is that. But Larry,
maybe that could be it.
There's a little bit of that, but how many teams are under 20 how many head coaches are 28 games under 500 who've never had Tom Brady at all or never, had no success to counterbalance that at all, right? So it's Bill Belichick. And if you think that Bill Belichick is the reason why the Patriots went sideways, well, some of the decisions he made as general manager absolutely get attached to him. Since the day Bill Belichick became the head coach of the New England Patriots, they've got one of the best points per average defensively over 25 years in the history of the league. The defense never stopped playing a very good level of football under Bill Belichick. Their
defense was better than the Niners defense last year.
They drafted Mac Jones, who isn't the guy. So that's a big reason why the man after Brady turns out to maybe not even be an NFL quarterback. And that's why they're under 500. It's not because Bill Belichick doesn't know what to do. Now, you could say Bill Belichick is also a little bit too, he favors his own coaching tree, which sometimes includes literally members of his family tree. And that's all maybe reason. But just to, we didn't hire Bill Belichick because he's grumpy. You pussies. We had to overcome this with Jed York and Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, to this day, Larry, is probably still head coach of the 49ers if he was just a little bit more warmer and nicer to Jed York along the way. Yes. Yeah. But, I don't care about how warm a quarterback or a head coach is. And look at it this way. I'm going to tell you right now, Kyle Shanahan has got all the warmth and fuzziness of an igloo. Kyle Shanahan is not a come sit on my lap and let me tell you a story about the good old days kind of guy either. You know, I mean, he is matter of fact.
Yeah, but that's with the
Might be more
media.
relatable to
I
players.
guarantee you he's way warmer with Jed than he is with the media. But I hear what you're saying.
Probably.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, the thing about Belichick is he's a great coach, but you know what? It's like we've seen this thing happen a couple of times. It happened with John Gruden. Teams, head coaches do well, and then they get additional power, and then it's a totally different skill set to pick players than it is to coach players. And Gruden won a Super Bowl early in Tampa with Rich McKay's talent, Tony Dungy's team. And then Gruden won that Super Bowl. And because he won that Super Bowl, then they just said, hey, we'll just bring in Bruce Allen as your capologist. And you essentially are the coach. You're the football czar, and you're making all the calls. And then after 4 or 5 bad drafts, he was out of there, or whatever, probably a few more than that. Same with Belichick. Belichick, the GM, basically hurt Belichick, the head coach. Mike Holmgren, the GM, hurt Mike Holmgren, the head coach. So the NFL's huge. It's hard to do both jobs. It's different skill sets. It's true genius. It takes genius to be a play caller and be, whether you're an offensive play caller or defensive play caller, and it takes genius to be a personnel guy of note. And it's different genius. And how many guys in the history of football really had both? And it's just not. It's very, very rare. Very, very rare. And what happens is you have success, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you're so good, we'll make you the coach and the GM. Or you're so good, you'll be the coach and you'll be like over the GM, and now you're making all the calls. But in reality, it takes a very keen eye to find the personnel. It takes a very great, skill to design and call an offense or a defense. They're not the same skill sets. And really, in the history of football, who's done both well long term for over a long period of time? I mean, Walsh had McVay. You know what I mean? It's like you think of the greatest, Mike Tomlin, 17 consecutive years where he's made the playoffs. He had Kevin Colbert for a long time, Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame executive. Now Omar Khan. It's just it's really hard to wear both hats. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it's each job is more than a full-time job unto itself. So to try to do both jobs, you do have to work a 24-hour day. You actually need a 28-hour day to do both jobs well, which last time I checked, Larry, just don't exist. So it's a tough premise.
But shame on Kraft. Look how you were a nobody, nothing, stammering around. You got Belichick and Brady. You won all these rings, and now you're going to badmouth Belichick because you didn't have a warm, fuzzy relationship with him, and that's distasteful.
Right. Man. Like, just calm down. Like, go get a hand job if you need warm and fuzzy, dude.
Yeah. And he's that, that's on his list of things to do.
He's done it.
He's stopped down in Tampa on his way across country or wherever he was stopping down for some commingling.
Yeah. Was it Pearl or something? Like if the words pearl or oyster are in the name of your massage parlor, something's going on in there. It ain't just massage.
But I mean, where's the appreciation for what the guy brought you, right? And the millions of dollars and all the joy,
billions. I mean, the New England Patriots went from nobody in Boston even gives a shit to a model NFL franchise. They
took Boston away from the Red Sox. My sister lives there. And my nephew, I'm like, how would you describe the fan base there? And he's like, well, it's lifetime Red Sox fans, but really the Patriots run has made them the more popular team in the region.
Well, again, any city that has an NFL team has its X marks the spot of most popular team in the area because there's nothing that comes close to the NFL. Nothing in terms of popularity right now in North American sports. And that's well documented as is some evidence that we have of how relaxed Trent Baalke is in some media settings. Our good friend Smiley Dan, Larry, says, hey, my work meeting's finally over. Did they cover the Trent Baalke fart yet? No, we have not. But here we go. If you could please cue it up, Larry. Trent Baalke talking to media down in Jacksonville. And let's just say for a moment there he had a co-host on the dais. You got to listen carefully. Listen.
See if I can call this up. This is awful announcing. Hold on. Do we have the audio?
You have the video? I sent you a link last night.
Here it is.
I don't hear anything. Larry, it's not coming through. I can't hear it at all.
I couldn't hear it either. Hold on, let me see. There's multiple versions of it on Twitter, so let me get you a different version. Maybe we can make this happen. Hold on.
I hope we can make this happen because it's a level of comfort that very few men ever reach.
Let's see.
And it's not like here's the thing. It was in the if farts are either, like auga car horns.
It wasn't like a snap, crackle, pop. It's more like, it sounds kind of more like somebody, like some air. Oh, here we go. Listen closely.
It's like a tiny foghorn.
Can you see? Are we sharing screen here?
We're not sharing screen.
Okay, hold on. I got the right one. Now I can go back and share the screen. Hold on. Give it a second. Give it time. Patience, everybody. Patience. All right, here we go.
I mean, I did text you this last night. Here we go.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet. Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Okay. So it's a little,
What?
belly grumble more than it does like a straight up, it wasn't.
It's a trumpet.
Here's the thing. It sounded a little juicy. That's the scary thing about all that. My favorite,
Damon, when you get a little older and there's some pressure moments, you and Lowry wouldn't really understand. But Coach understands because he's a real football guy. And I'm a real football guy. And that was a real football fart that you heard there, Damon and Lowry.
My favorite part of it is that he doesn't just talk through it. He stops talking, lets it go, excuses himself, and moves on like nothing happened. That's just that's a normal bodily function. It happens. Everybody does that. Why would Trent be above that? We're going to move on. We're going to go past it. We're going to get beyond this fart and continue this press conference.
I talked to Coach, and we haven't set our board yet, but what I just set was a real stinker in here, and I'm apologizing because it's the polite thing to do, Damon. I couldn't see you doing that on the radio when you used to grill me. And Lowry, when you're sitting there in the elevator and you're asking me questions about our linebackers, and I'm telling you I like them, I could have, when I had you and Lund in the elevator, I could have ripped one right there, but I didn't out of respect for you. And now looking back on it, I wish I had.
I told Tommy, I told Tate, I was like, that's a fart. I've heard one before. I've done a few myself, and there's no doubt in my mind that Trent Baalke just let one go in the middle of a press conference. Jacksonville historically has always had a little funny smell to it as a town. It's because of the paper factory. A lot of people say it's kind of on the swamps too. There's a lot of standing water there in Jacksonville. It's got a weird aroma, and Trent Baalke's not helping this either.
The thing about it is that Trent eats healthy, and, if you eat a lot of green bell peppers and red bell peppers, they will cause some gas, Krug. I've talked about it. I've told you about it. I told Tate, I told Tom, when I go to Amici's and I get the lemon pepper wings, I always say, they always say, do you want some peppers on the side? And I'm like, no, because I'm thinking, what about Tate and the drive home? But if we're in the Miata and the top's down, it doesn't bother me as much.
Next wake up will happen on Wednesday next week. I will be flying back from Las Vegas, so Larry won't be joining you at 8:45 a.m. on Monday, but the day before the draft should be a massive wake up for us. And then on Friday, the day after the first round, it'll be even bigger, as we'll have a pick or a decision, a trade up, a trade back, a trade of Brandon Aiyuk. Something will have happened for us to officially talk about as a new topic, because the first round will be in the books and we can start looking ahead to the second round. And I can't wait for Wednesday and Friday's wake up with you, brother. Thank you, as always. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe on your way out. Oh, and we got a couple
more super here. Yeah, we got a couple supers. Ricky Williams says they're going D-line in the first. Let's be honest.
We're almost not going to argue with you.
History says
you might be right
that it will be a defensive lineman. Johnny Newton, Michael Hall, Rook Ororo, Darius Robinson. You're probably right. And then we read this one before, Chef A, but we referenced it. We didn't actually read it. Damon, Jerry Rice's kid, what is your opinion of his capabilities? Is he a good pick and a good fit for the Niners? We already got into that one.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, his capabilities are capabilities which probably, Larry, he's an undrafted free agent, isn't he?
No, you're talking about Rice's kid?
Yeah, he's going to
go in the fourth round. I'm pretty confident.
Fourth round grade on him. Okay.
Fourth round. No, he's going to go in the fourth round. Some people have a third round grade on him. Really? It wouldn't be a total shock if he went late third, but I think he's more like fourth or fifth. And if he gets down to the fifth round, the Niners may go after him. Same with Christian's brother, Luke McCaffrey. Both those guys are kind of in the same boat. In that late third
deal,
anywhere fifth round in that range.
Larry, maybe they can get a LeBron deal where if you draft the kid, you get the dad too. Jerry Rice comes back for one more year in the Super Bowl window.
I mean, I like his kid. I think his kid's good, but you know what? It's probably easier for Brendan Rice if he played somewhere else, because Jerry was Jerry. And that's an awful lot to
right.
Try to measure up to, for sure. Invader 49er says, Dane Brugler, whose draft guide is called The Beast.
Yes,
it's like 700 pages. I've got it online. I can forward it to you if you want it. He's got
is that an Iron mask? Is that Eddie? Is that what that is?
I can't really make that out. But Invader 49er is a good fan. And Dustin Gold says Larry's looking for this year's Purdy. I actually already have decided that this year's Purdy is a quarterback who threw to Malachi Corley. I love Austin Reed. That's all your homework assignment. Western Kentucky. He's projected pick 393, which means he may be an undrafted free agent. He's the same basic size as Purdy, 6'1". He's listed at about 230. But Austin Reed is my this year's Brock Purdy. I really love Austin Reed. He's a former lacrosse player. He's got a 4.4 GPA. I did a sleeper video, and I put him in there. Supposedly this guy's like a ridiculous film junkie who won't turn off the film. I mean, think about it. Insanely competitive film junkie, 4.4 GPA. Go check out Austin Reed. I mean, I don't think he's got
There's a lot to like, kids. Go check it out. Everyone, thank you so much for watching today. Back on Wednesday, 8:45. Back on Friday next week, 8:45. In the meantime, everyone have a great weekend. Supposed to be really nice weather. Enjoy. And can't wait for draft week to finally arrive, Larry. We're going to have a lot of fun next week, brother. Thanks as always.
You have a good time during draft week if you're a football guy.